We gather here tonight to bring women back to their rightful place.
The Testaments, a new Hulu original series from the executive producers of The Handmaid's Tale.
It's easier to accept a story than believe that the people around you are monsters.
The battle isn't over.
There comes a time when you have to take action, when you have to choose your own destiny.
Never quite as it seems.
Watch the new Hulu original series, The Testaments, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Well, absolutely. I think mainstream science is taking tiny steps in the right direction. For example, in terms of human antiquity, in 1993, when Forbidden Archaeology was published, most scientists thought humans like us first came into existence about 100,000 years ago. And then gradually over the decades, they advanced it to 200,000 years. And now on the basis of some discoveries in Morocco of some anatomically human skulls, they're now placing the origin of anatomically modern humans at about 300,000 years. Of course, I think humans like us have been around for millions of years, but at least the trend is going in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Another feature of Forbidden Archaeology when it was published in 1993 was the idea that humans like us coexisted with various types of ape-man-like creatures in the distant past. And that view has now become accepted by mainstream scientists. They're saying that humans like us coexisted with Neanderthals and Denisovans and what they call the Hobbit, Homo floresiensis in Indonesia, and so on and so forth. Now, I think the period of coexistence of humans like us with more primitive ape-like creatures has gone on for a long, long, long time, many millions of years. But again, it's an example where the trend in science is going in the direction of Forbidden Archaeology. It does make me feel good in a sense. Yeah, that's really kind of interesting. Of course, a lot of my ideas about these things are inspired by my studies in the ancient Sanskrit writings of India, which talk about a very ancient human presence on Earth. But another thing they talk about is the idea that there are many human-like species. 400,000 is actually the number that's put on it. 400,000 human-like species scattered throughout the universe. So I think we were beginning to uncover a lot of these human-like species. And they seem to be varieties of our species in the sense that there could be interbreeding. So, yeah, that's a fascinating topic. Well, it's something that I talk about because this is going to take us a little bit beyond the stones and the bones that archaeologists normally deal with. But I would say it all depends on how we answer the question, what is a human being? Now, there are many scientists who say, we're purely material beings. We're just machines made out of molecules in competition with each other for survival. And as far as our mind and consciousness is concerned, well, that's just a temporary byproduct of bioelectrical activity in the brain. And at the time of death, when the chemicals in the brain become disorganized, then there's no more consciousness, no more mind, nothing like that, just molecules. I don't accept that. I think that consciousness has its own independent existence apart from matter. Matter doesn't produce consciousness, but consciousness can come in contact with matter and become covered by it. So I would say, as conscious beings, as conscious individual persons, we have an existence, an origin that goes beyond the world of matter. Our human body, or any other type of body, any type of animal body, or ape-man body, or plant body, or insect body, or fish body, is a vehicle for a conscious self, which is non-material. So I would say, yeah, our bodies now are carbon-based. But I could imagine on some other level of reality or some other planet and some other galaxy, there may be conscious selves who have bodily vehicles that are not, as you say, carbon-based.
Yeah.
They're based on some other type of chemistry or some more subtle kinds of matter that our present science is equipped to deal with. Well, absolutely, it makes sense. I think anybody who ponders these things for more than a second will have similar kinds of realizations. But people, they also have experiences that tend to suggest these things and confirm these things, and that are very consistent with these ideas.
Yeah.
Like, people who have near-death experiences or out of body types of experiences. Like heart attack patients.
Yeah.
I mean, the heart stops beating, blood stops flowing to the brain. Medical instruments show that the brain waves stop. At a moment like that, a person should be completely unconscious. But there are people in that situation who report separating from their bodies, being able to look down and see and hear what the doctors and nurses are doing to try to revive them. And then at a certain point, they're revived. And they're able to report in detail exactly what they observed. And people, there was Dr. Michael Sabin, for example, who investigated this phenomenon, and he would compare the reports of what these people say they saw with the medical records kept by the doctors and nurses who treated them, and he could see that they matched up, and he took it as, and I would also take it as proof that they were having a real experience apart from the body, apart from the brain. There's a conscious self that temporarily separated from the body, from the brain, and then re-entered it. So there's different categories of scientific evidence that are consistent with this feeling that you report that you have, and which I feel, and which many other people feel also. As a matter of fact, every day I practice some meditation. I mean, just to get into that state. But you're also reminding me of an experience that happened to me when I was younger. When I was in my 20s, I was in the United States Navy, and I was stationed in Iceland. I was at a weather station in Iceland, and some friends of mine and we went out into the mountains of Iceland in the wintertime camping, and we decided we wanted to have a race to the top of a nearby mountain, not a Mount Everest sized mountain, but a few thousand feet high.
Yeah.
And we kind of started racing up the side, and I was kind of like winning. I got almost to the top, and then I kind of slipped. I fell onto my back. My head was pointing downhill, and I was going faster and faster on the ice and snow. And I was thinking of all the sharp rocks that I climbed over, the little cliffs and ledges, and I thought, my head's going to get smashed open on one of these rocks. I'm going to go over one of those cliffs. At a certain point, I just kind of let go of it. I realized there's nothing I can do. And, I had one of these out-of-body experiences where I was separated from my body, and I could see it going down the side of the mountain. And then I kind of blacked out, and I woke up at the base of the hill in a snowdrift. And my friends were telling me, the way that you came down there, it's the only way that you possibly could have come down and survived.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that experience of letting go and letting things happen that you were talking about, sort of combined with a near-death experience. It brings up a very interesting question. If we're conscious selves that are by nature eternal, there's no beginning, there's no end, then if you're on that level of reality, then there isn't any fear. In effect, you're beyond time. You're beyond this state where you have to worry about the possible destruction of your body or that of a friend or relative or family member. So according to the Vedic cosmology, that's our original state as beings of pure consciousness. It's a level of reality that is beyond time. It's beyond birth. It's beyond death. There's no beginning. There's no end. It's just the eternal present. But what happens is that when we become selfish or egotistical, and we don't want to be in that harmonious original state with all other conscious beings, then we need another reality in which we can function, and that's the world of matter. And in the world of matter, we need vehicles made of matter in which to function. So that's what bodies are: human bodies, plant bodies, animal bodies. They are vehicles for conscious selves to operate in the world of matter. And we begin to identify with the temporary body that we're inhabiting. The conscious self, although it's different from the vehicle that it's in, just like you're different, like you drive a car. You're a person. You're not the car, but if you're in the car and you're driving it, you tend to identify the car as yourself, and you become worried. Is it going to crash? Is it going to go off the road? Is something going to happen?
Yeah.
So you have to be, but so it's the same with our identification with whatever material vehicle that we happen to be in at the present moment. Yeah, it can get into an accident. Something can happen to it, but that is something different than the actual conscious self, who we really are on that higher level of reality that's beyond all that. So the real question for us is, how can we get back to that original condition where we're beyond time and all the destructive forces that are there on the material level of reality. I don't know if that's making any sense. It's like waking up from a dream, in a sense.
Yeah.
And when we go to sleep at night, we may dream a tiger's coming after me. We become afraid. But really, nothing's happening to us. We're lying there in our bed, and we have nothing to do with that dream situation. But as long as you're in it, then you get confused, you get frightened, but when you wake up, then you understand, actually, I wasn't threatened at all. Yeah. Well, it's like, say, I'm a person, and, I can get on a scooter, like you see going up and down the streets in some cities these days.
Yeah.
Or I can get on a motorcycle, and I can go faster than I can on one of the electric scooters, or I can get in a Ferrari and go even faster, or I can get in a boat and go on the water, or I can get in a submarine and go under the water. I can get in an airplane and fly in the sky, or I can get in a space capsule and be shot to outer space, travel in space. I'm the same person, but according to the vehicle that I'm operating, I can function in different ways. So I would say it's the same kind of conscious self in the human body, in the bird body, in the fish body, in the snail body, whatever. But they're what it's able to do is kind of limited by the kind of vehicle that it has. And what makes the human vehicle so special, according to the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic texts, is that in the human vehicle, we have the ability to understand who we really are as conscious selves, apart from all these different bodily vehicles. And we have an opportunity to do that, to raise our level of awareness and consciousness. That's the special benefit of the human vehicle. We can use it for that purpose. I think it can survive itself without being in a physical form. And we may see, even our own lives. When I was 2 years old, I had a baby's body, and then when I was 15, I had a teenager's body. And when I was 35, I had an adult male body, and now I'm a little bit older, and I can see throughout all those material changes, because the molecules in the body are recycled year after year after year, so that, practically speaking, none of the molecules that were there in my original infant body are still with me. And I'm still the same person. I have an identity that's apart from all those changes of material circumstances and ingredients that my body, the material body, has passed through. I'm still the same conscious self. And I think I will always be the same conscious self, even when I'm not in a body, or I never was in a material body. I think the conscious self has its own original.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Kind of body, a non-material body and set of senses and abilities. So yes, I think it is tied up with the question of reincarnation. But then, in many cases, there are cases of young children who display amazing abilities. For example, musical abilities. The ability to play musical instruments, and when they've had no training, because they're just children.
Right.
It seems like it's something from some past life.
Yeah.
That they have. They're carrying on. And even in my own case, basically I'm a writer. That's how I've spent my life. That's been my main principal activity. And I remember once, my mother told me, when I was small, when I was 2 or 3 years old, she would give me alphabet soup. She said I wouldn't eat it. I would spell out words in the bowl.
Yeah.
So I think many people have that kind of experience. There's just something inside them that's just waiting to express itself, some talent or ability or something. So that points to, I believe, reincarnation as one of the possible explanations for that, which is maybe after we've taken these philosophical flights here, get back to the stones and the bones. The Silurian is a period in the geological history of the Earth. Scientists have different names for the periods of time in the Earth's history. And the Silurian is the period that goes from about 413 million to 443 million years ago. And how that came up was once a few years ago, there were a couple of scientists who worked for NASA. One of them was Gavin Smith, and the other one was Adam Frank, who's an astrophysicist. And they were looking for evidence of other civilizations in other galaxies, and because they were thinking they might be able to detect, using scientific instruments, analyzing the light that comes from other galaxies, whether there have been other civilizations that have produced, the kinds of chemicals that we're producing today that are changing our climate and, perhaps bringing us to some kind of environmental crisis on Earth that would wipe out life. Of course, they'd have to have a technologically advanced civilization to do that. So they were wondering, what ways could we possibly have scientifically to examine the light that comes from these planets and distant galaxies, to analyze what their atmosphere is like and what changes they may have undergone, like climate change and things like that. And then they started wondering, well, what about not what's happening on some distant galaxy, but what if there were some civilizations that existed millions and millions of years ago on our planet? Would we be able to detect any signs of their existence today? And they had been watching this television series called Doctor Who from the United Kingdom. It's from Great Britain.
Yeah.
And they were watching some episodes from the Doctor Who television series. And in one of them, there were some scientists operating a nuclear reactor, and they detected some activity under the earth, and they kind of went down and looked, and they discovered that they had awakened a group of reptilian humanoids that had existed during the Silurian period. So that's where this Silurian hypothesis term comes from. It comes from NASA scientists who were wondering, what if there was some advanced technological civilization that had existed on Earth 400 million years ago during the Silurian period? What would we be able to see today as remnants of what happened? And they determined that you couldn't see very much because the fossil evidence would have been destroyed. Any artifacts that would have existed would have eroded away, oxidized. What they determined was that you might be able to detect some chemical traces of elements that had been modified by humans, or radioactive elements, from their nuclear reactors or something like that. And I was kind of interested in what they were doing because it was interesting to see scientists speculating about something that in Forbidden Archaeology I had demonstrated was a fact.
Exactly.
Namely, that there were humans present on Earth millions, even hundreds of millions of years ago, as far back in time as the Silurian period. And there's evidence for this. It's not very well known because of a process of knowledge filtration that operates in the world of science. But in 1880, there was a report in Scientific American. There was an article called Ancient Man in Missouri. And it was about a man in Missouri who was doing some mining. His name was R.W. Booth, and he had a mine at a place called Dry Branch in Franklin County in Missouri. And in the mine, 18 feet below the surface, he found some human bones, a human skull, rib bones, part of the backbone, a femur or thigh bone, and he also found some stone tools and charcoal and some kind of fabric that the bones were lying on. And these things were found in a formation that geologists assign to the lower Silurian period. So my point in bringing up this Silurian hypothesis that these NASA scientists were speculating about is, there were humans who existed on our planet 400 million years ago, back during the Silurian period. Scientists now believe that humans like us first came into existence 200,000 or 300,000 years ago. And before that, they say there were no humans like us on Earth. There were only more primitive ape-like human ancestors. So they would say human beings like us evolved from ultimately some primitive apes and monkeys who lived millions of years ago, and gradually they evolved into human beings like us. And one of the pieces of evidence they give for that is what they call Beijing man. And these were some fossils of ape men that were discovered in China in the 1920s by Davidson Black, who was a physician working at the Beijing Medical Union College in Beijing, China. And that hospital, that school, was started by the Rockefeller Foundation. So the Rockefeller Foundation was funding the research of Davidson Black, who excavated these fossils of the ape man, Beijing man, as it was called. And it was kind of interesting that the reason they were funding this kind of research, this evolution research, it's really kind of interesting because John D. Rockefeller Sr., who founded the Rockefeller Foundation, he was a Baptist. And originally he set up the Rockefeller Foundation as a Baptist charity to fund Baptist missionary work in China, among other things. But then when his son, John D. Rockefeller Jr., took over, he switched the whole emphasis of the foundation to upholding the views of the mainstream scientific community, including their ideas about human evolution, humans evolving from apes. So they were very much involved in funding this kind of research. And one of the reasons they were interested in doing that, according to officials of the Rockefeller Foundation, like Max Mason, who was the president of the Rockefeller Foundation, the reason they were funding this kind of research was the goal of establishing beneficial control over human society. So we kind of have to ask, controlled by whom? Well, actually, Warren Weaver, who was a Rockefeller Foundation official at the time, he said, in an ideal world, you would do this kind of research without any thought of money. But it's just a fact of the world that money does influence how things are done. And if you have money and the ability to control research, you can dictate its purposes. So, so that episode, the Beijing man research of Davidson Black in China, is a good example of the Rockefeller Foundation, in this instance, using its influence to control the direction of scientific research.
Which is, to me, it's very disappointing because...
Well, one thing to consider is that we all engage in some kind of knowledge filtration.
Yeah.
In the sense that we don't necessarily believe everything that we hear, from any source. We all do it. But my point in looking at how this plays out in the scientific world is that whatever standard we have, for evaluating evidence should be applied equally,
Yeah.
and just like a policeman, for example. He's got a whole list of laws and rules and regulations, and maybe for somebody he likes, he's very lenient. Oh, yeah, fine, thank you, just go ahead. And then for somebody he doesn't like, does the same thing, and he applies the rules or laws very strictly. That's just not fair.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered with 30% off orders from Aldi, Kroger, and Dollar General. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Order in so you can lock in for the games. 30% off your grocery order, only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
El 2026 FIFA World Cup Meal llegó a McDonald's con 9 vasos legendarios. En el lineup tenemos Christian CP10 Pulisic, David Beckham, Lamine The Dream Yamal, Ronaldinho El Mago, Monsieur Titi Henry, Son Salih Heung-min, Alfonso Fonsi Davis, Santi Bebote Jiménez y en la portería el que no necesita apodo, Grimes.
Llévate uno de 9 vasos legendarios con el FIFA World Cup Meal. En McDonald's participantes solo por tiempo limitado, hasta agotar existencias.
Whatever standard one is applying, it should apply equally to. There's some very famous scientists who have conducted research into what some people would call the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
Have done research in remote viewing or different things related to consciousness and things like that. And they're, although they're following, the scientific methodology in their research, it's just rejected, or people who research extraterrestrial intelligence or reincarnation or different things like that. They're just excluded.
Which isn't right.
Even though, so that's kind of what I object to is, artificially rejecting, categories of evidence just because you have some different metaphysical assumptions about the nature of reality. I'd like to add for your listeners a special offer. My latest published book is called My Science, My Religion. It's about, it's a collection of 24 papers I've presented on the topics that we've been discussing on this show.
Yeah.
I've presented them at mainstream scientific conferences.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who orders a copy of that book from my website, mcremo.com, mcremo.com, will get the opportunity, if they request it, to also receive a free copy of the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the ancient Sanskrit texts that have inspired my work.